I ruined my mother's life for good and I don't regret it. My mother was never the best mother, but I had managed for the first few years living with her after my mother and father had divorced when I had just turned 6. At 7 she had called me a mistake for being the only child she didn't plan for. She seemed to be disappointed in everything I did if it wasn't what she wanted me to do. Even when I did what she wanted she was rarely happy about it, and at 9 she had even forgotten my birthday and tried to claim we celebrated it. This all I was able to get through and manage fine till I turned 12. She had started drinking and was with a guy. This guy at the time I had thought was a pretty decent guy. He always seemed extra nice to me and it wasn't till years later I had realized he had been grooming me. When my mother started drinking all hell broke loose. She slowly stopped paying for hot water so she could buy alcohol. I was forced to boil water so we could take baths and wash clothes and ended up getting burned on my chest pretty bad from a split pot of water. I had to treat the burn myself despite not knowing what to do and being bedridden for a week before it stopped hurting enough to actually get up and walk around. She would also pawn off my stuff so she could use the money from that as well, and eventually she cheated on her boyfriend with Lily. Lily was awful. She and the guy got into fights a lot since he had to stay at the house and couldn't move anywhere. There were times when little 12-year-old me had to lock my little sisters in their rooms so they wouldn't see what was happening and then would have to clean up blood from bites and broken glass. He eventually left after a very bad fight. I thought things would get better, but it seems since he was gone Lily was mad she didn't have a punching bag anymore, so turned onto me instead. She would instigate me or just simply start a fight. Most of the time it ended with me pinned to the floor and my mother would have just watched it happen. Sometimes she would even seem proud of Lily for beating up a child. This went on for a year until my mother decided to abandon the house we were in and its mortgage to go follow her girlfriend to Virginia. We lived in a motel and my mother and Lily got hooked on substances and eventually we couldn't even pay for the motel anymore. We were homeless. I took on jobs on Lily's grandfather's property to pay for food and any other necessities I could afford, and her grandfather would take me to eat sometimes and go try to bargain at the local flea markets. I learned a lot about bargaining and how to get good deals. The man was great, but sometimes I wished he would have done more. I don't think it would have mattered though. I don't know how my mother got past CPS for so many years despite many complaints and even my attempts to tell adults at my school about what was happening. That entire time my father didn't know what was going on. She kept telling him that me and my sisters didn't want to talk to him. She was using the child support to pay for her substances and alcohol, so I was left paying for food with what I would earn, and it was not a lot, definitely not enough for 5 people. I spent many nights skipping meals. I would sneak stuff from school lunches to give to my siblings if I didn't have enough money to pay for dinner that night. I got very thin during that year in Virginia, but I held out and finally my dad had threatened to take her to court if she didn't let us at least talk with him on the phone. So she allowed it under her supervision, but when my father asked if we wanted to visit that summer I sprung on the opportunity. This was my one chance to get my sisters away from this vile woman and her partner. I couldn't risk losing it, so despite her trying to gesture no I said yes. After the call she was very angry with me and I didn't go unscathed that night, but it worked. She couldn't refuse to let us see our dad because he had already heard with his own ears that we wanted to see him. So that summer she dropped us off with my father. We were not a pretty sight for him. We all had our heads shaved by that time and it was still growing back from when we got lice, and my mother was too lazy to treat it properly. We were malnourished and looked very small compared to normal children. My father said nothing at first, but as soon as we got back to his home state he started asking us questions. I told him the whole story and how I didn't want to go back with her. My intention was to just get my father to take me and my siblings in, but karma bit my mother in the SS real nice. My father got in touch with my mother's side of the family and explained what was going on. They were very wealthy and ended up hiring a really good lawyer. My father married his now wife so that gaining custody would be easier than spending the summer taking me and him to Tennessee for court dates and such, leaving my sisters with his wife upon my request so they wouldn't have to deal with something so terrifying as court at so young. We ended up taking everything from my mother: her only income, child support, her children, visitation rights. She had police after her for child neglect, child abuse, substance abuse, abandoning her mortgage, and more. After it was over I had felt so relieved. My mother of course had to leave me with one more FU by calling me on my 14th birthday, but it didn't matter, it was over and we were free from her and her psycho girlfriend. I cut all contact with my mother and so have my sisters. The last 6 years have been rough, but it will always be better than the hell that my mother put me through. Now I am working as a cook/supervisor at a restaurant, helping my parents pay bills and saving to go to trade school for welding. I will always be thankful to my father for taking me away from that vile woman and hope that now my little sisters will get to live a childhood I didn't get to. Sometimes I look her up on Facebook, I guess in hopes that she has changed. I never see change. She has lost a lot of weight and is still homeless, hopping from house to house since no one will accept her to rent a place when she puts her name down anywhere. I can't help the little bit of satisfaction I feel seeing the nightmare she is living after having lived in the nightmare she had created for so long.
I think my boyfriend is lying about his divorce and is cheating with me. My boyfriend and I have been together for 5 years. We met online, something I had never thought I would try, but at the time, I had been single for many years and my sister had recommended it to me. I was reluctant at first. She kept telling me how she had found many dates through this website and that it would be perfect for me as I'm always busy working, so I could just use it in my free time or only when I felt like it. Anyway, one night over dinner she told me about this man she had recently met through the website and how perfect he was for her and how she could see a future with him. So I gave in. I gave it a try, not expecting to actually find someone, but when I matched with Carl, we hit it off instantly. He was so funny and charming, so we exchanged numbers and then agreed to meet for coffee the following week. When we met for coffee that day, Carl told me that he had just gotten a divorce from his wife of many years who he has an adult daughter with. I was fine with this, I'm not really the jealous type of person, and he had assured me that he was ready to move on and that their relationship had been dying for ages. The first date went well, and after a few more successful dates, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I was over the moon as I really liked Carl. I have always been very passionate about my work. I'm a nurse, so my job is very demanding and intensive, which means I work most nights during the week. I thought this may be a problem with Carl when we first started dating, as I wouldn't be available most nights, and during the day after working a shift, I would be catching up on sleep and therefore, not available to see him or talk to him. However, this was not the case. Carl thought it was perfect, as he told me that he had a very busy schedule too, with his work, business appointments, and making time to see his daughter. Carl told me that he was always free on a Tuesday, which happened to align perfectly with my work schedule, as I didn't work on Monday or Tuesday nights. He started coming over to my house every single Tuesday, pretty much every single week since, and that was 5 years ago. Here's where it starts to get a little bit weird though. Since we agreed to see each other on Tuesdays, Carl has come to my house every single Tuesday 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. but refuses to see me any other day and out of that time frame. He has always arrived perfectly on time at 11 a.m. and always left promptly at 3 p.m., no exceptions. As well as this, every single time he comes over, he brings this tiny, dirty chihuahua along with him. Well, last week, I found out that this dog he has been bringing belongs to his ex-wife. His excuse for this was that he likes taking the dog on walks, and they do 10 miles of walking every day together, but he works too much to commit to getting a dog for himself. I found this to be really odd, but I didn't question him about it any further. I know 10 miles might seem like a lot to walk the dog every day, and to be honest, I don't quite believe it myself, but I know that he does walk the dog regularly, as every Wednesday and Thursday he calls me whilst he walks the dog. This is always between 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. with, again, no exceptions. He always ends the call at exactly 6:30 and always calls at exactly 4. A couple years ago I got the dreaded call that my dad died. I was absolutely distraught, as he was my biggest supporter and was always there for me. I asked Carl if he would come to the funeral with me, but he refused, as the funeral was being held on a Sunday and not during his allotted time to see me, Tuesdays 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Of course I was upset by this, but eventually, I convinced myself that he was probably just busy. Fast forward another year, I had become very sick and I had ended up in hospital. It was so serious that the doctors had told me I would have died had I waited another day to seek medical help. I called Carl in despair and asked if he would bring me some clothes I had at home and drop them off at the hospital. Carl refused because I had asked him on a Saturday and not on a Tuesday. I was in so much pain, I was in the hospital for months. I constantly begged Carl to see me, and again, he refused unless it was on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The final reason that made me think my boyfriend may be cheating on me with his ex-wife was last month at his daughter's wedding. The wedding was to be held in Italy, and the plan was for Carl and his ex-wife to fly out there together 4 days before the wedding and for me to fly out by myself a day before the wedding. Carl's daughter had rented out a huge, luxurious villa for close family and friends to stay in before and after the wedding. I thought this was perfect. I have never spent the night with Carl, so I thought us sharing a bed would be a huge turning point in our relationship. That was until I found out that Carl and his ex-wife would be sleeping in the villa and I would be sleeping in a converted barn by myself at the bottom of the villa garden. I asked Carl if I could please sleep in the villa with him, but he refused, so I refused to go to the wedding and stay home. On top of this, I have never been to Carl's house. In fact, I don't even know where he lives, and he has me blocked on all of his social media. I can only contact him on WhatsApp. I think Carl may have been lying to me when we first met about his divorce to his wife. I'm starting to get the impression that he is actually having an affair with me and cheating on his wife. He's so secretive with me and appears to still have a lot of contact with her. Or maybe they decided to rekindle their relationship after their divorce? Or maybe I'm overthinking and they are just really close friends. I mean, they do have a daughter together. So Reddit, am I being crazy? What should I do? Going to break up on Friday with my dickhead situationship. Tell me the right way to do it. I've been seeing this guy for 4 months. It's all lovey-dovey. He brings me flowers. We spend 3 nights a week together. Have great intimacy and all in all a great time together. We make each other laugh. I could seriously see a future with this man. Growing old with him, taking care of him. He has spoken about his desire to get married and have children and how our life goals are a perfect match and how lucky he is to have met me. He is very empathetic when he speaks to me. I felt like I have a great friend and a partner. Despite all this show of love, something always felt off. When we go out, he checks out other women. Although he always compliments my looks, this did make me feel a bit uncomfortable. I thought he would change after getting to know me, after spending quality time with me. But it didn't. 2 weeks ago we were about to hit the 4-month mark and I decided to check whether he is still active on dating apps. I found his profile active and decided to have a talk about exclusivity without hinting at having seen his profile. He said we were exclusive from the day we kissed our 3rd date. I thought, okay, the app takes a while to be stopped from being shown to others if it's on snooze mode. Then the unimaginable happened yesterday. My friend who is visiting our town matched with him and chatted with him and made plans to go out. Now as girls talk, she was excitedly telling me about the new date and showed me the profile and my heart sank. The guy will spend Friday and Saturday with me and had made plans to see her on Sunday. And the worst part, After making plans with her, he had a video call to tell me how much he misses me and how he thinks I'm an amazing person, and we even discussed moving in together. And after our 1-hour call ended, he proceeded to chat with my friend on the app. I realized he is a pathological liar. He lied so that I won't sleep around, but he still could. He created a future vision with me in it, planned a 4-day trip in May with me just to convince me that he is into it for the long haul. I'm sitting here feeling numb. We have another video call on Thursday. He will come to me on Friday, and I want to speak to him face to face and see his reaction live. I want to know what lies or stories or explanations he is going to give. Then I'm going to ask him to take his stuff which he has left behind and go back to his home. Any advice on how to have this conversation like an adult? I don't want to yell or cry. Honestly, I don't care anymore. I feel numb. This is the second time I'm having a similar dating experience in a year's time. Once I start dating someone, I'm loyal to my bone and I don't F around or keep my options open. Am I approaching the dating scene wrong, or is the world just messed up? Going to break up on Friday with my dickhead situationship. Tell me the right way to do it. My situationship has been flirting with my friend after saying we were exclusive. I sent him a text ending things along with the screenshots from my friend. I sat with these feelings for 5 hours after I got the images from my friend. It's 2:30 a.m. and I can't deal with it anymore. So it's done. He is dead to me. I will mourn the loss of a beautiful illusion. And with time I will heal, knowing karma will take care of this worthless human being. I finally managed to fall asleep at 4:30 a.m., got up and went to work. I had half a day today and I spent the rest of the day by the beach with my friend's children that I totally adore. I told my friend about what happened and she was more than kind to spend time with me. I feel much better already. I wish for you all to do well and never run into a scumbag like him ever in your life. P.S. Super happy that I ended it over text. Doing it in person, I might have lost my cool and might have shed some tears in front of him. Which would have been really horrible, as he doesn't deserve it. Here's to faster recovery, luckily. I have good friends around, even though I'm an expat living in a country far, far away from home and haven't been able to see my family since 2019. Times are hard, but I will make it. I thank my guardian angel for revealing his real self. He didn't respond to my message, but he came home with a bouquet of red roses at 6 p.m., a big one too this time, to match the severity of the mistake. It freaked me out a bit that he could enter my building without me letting him in and come knock on my door. He said he doesn't understand what's going on, oh boy, and wanted to talk like adults. I told him if he had a bit of self-respect he would just leave, and if he were even a tiny bit of an adult he wouldn't have gone cheating behind my back. I was already dressed to go to the supermarket, so I left while he tried to say stuff. Like I was stupid. I told him cheaters never change and I don't want to hear anything, and walked away. When I returned 30 minutes later he was sitting on the road in front of my apartment complex. He insisted we talk and I was like, yay, tell me what you want to say and go home, but take off your mask. He looked close to tears, not sure if it was fake or real. Honestly, I don't care. He said he just wanted to go on a walk with my friend he was chatting on the app with. I laughed out loud and asked him whether he needs to be on a dating app and match with women who have posted their SCS shots to go on walks with. He said that he knows it's a mistake. I asked him how he could bring himself to have intimacy with me on Sunday morning and go and meet a new woman in the afternoon to go for a walk with. Our first date, by the way, was one such walk, and he had said he wanted to kiss me on that date. I had then told him that we should maybe try that on a second date. I told him he is a pathological liar and that he is a narcissist. He got annoyed and asked me where all of this was coming from. I said I don't want to talk anymore and asked him to leave. He asked me to hear him out. I took off my mask, asked him to take a look at my face and asked him whether it looked like I cared anymore. He looked at me and decided to walk away. I called him out to tell him he forgot something behind and picked up the rose bouquet and dumped it in the dumpster in front of my building. It was petty, but I felt empowered for standing my ground. I hope I never see him again. You know what's the most amazing observation out of all this encounter? He never once said that he was sorry. I hope I never cross paths with him ever again. Blocked and done. We'll be moving apartments in 2 weeks. And asked a friend whether I could stay with her for a few days starting tomorrow.
My mom neglected me and ditched me for her new family, so I ditched her too. My dad has been in prison the majority of my life for non-violent substance charges. My mom got married when I was 10 to my stepdad. Just to clarify, my mom and dad were never married. They dated each other and eventually hooked up and had me. My problems with my mom started when she got pregnant with my sister, and then after she had my sister she got pregnant again and had my brother, and I became like a ghost. She hardly paid attention to me. She neglected me emotionally, and I felt like I was unwanted in her life. It didn't matter anymore. As I grew up, I continued to try to get her to talk to me, but she was always busy. With my brother and sister, every family activity they did together, she always excluded me. It was always my stepdad and mom and my siblings except for me. Like I wasn't part of the family. This is how I came to my conclusion that my mom hates me or she dislikes me. As I mentioned before, I have 2 younger siblings aged 4 and 9. One day, my mom comes into my room, she's all dressed up and racing around, and I ask if she's going somewhere. She tells me no, and I go back to playing on my computer. No later than 15 minutes, I hear the garage door go up, so I race downstairs thinking, what the heck? Sure enough, my mom, stepdad, and my sister and brother are all dressed up and in the truck, and I'm standing outside, feeling really uncomfortable. The look she gave me as she jumped into the truck made me feel like I was interrupting her. There wasn't any "oh yeah, sorry," it was just a look of absolute disgust. I don't cry very easily, but something about the whole thing really got to me, and I went back inside and cried a bit but then got over it. Wasn't the first time. She texts me 10 minutes later telling me they're just going to the park. I don't respond because I would have just worked myself up again. Fast forward, they get home, I was eating dinner, and my 9-year-old sister rushes in after my mom and is super excited to tell me about everything they had done. They hadn't gone to the park. My mom had lied to me, saying they went to the park when they'd actually gone to Dave & Buster's. They also went to get milkshakes, and went shopping. I was visibly crushed by it, and my little sister noticed I had gotten upset. I could tell my mom was about to start making excuses and making the circumstances my fault, so to keep my little sister and brother from seeing that, I excused myself to my room quietly. It super sucks. I've been trying so hard to be a good son despite the selfishness my mother and her chaotically selfish ways have on me, but once I realized that poop isn't normal, so I started questioning our relationship. I didn't see any safe way out without ending up on the streets, so I joined the army. It was spur of the moment, and she still doesn't know. I can handle it, and it's the first decision I've actually made on my own. I cannot tell you how excited I am for BCT soon. My mom neglected me and ditched me for her new family, so I ditched her too. I haven't said anything to my mom about me leaving, but I find it really hard to do because my sister is outspoken. Everything she hears and sees she tells, so I decided to tell my sister I'll be leaving for a job that I was offered. I am going to tell my mom the same thing if she asks. My mom didn't see me moving my stuff out, but she did notice some of my things missing and asked about them. I told her I sold some of my things to make some quick cash. I just got a little bit left to move out and I'll be done moving my things. I actually asked a friend if I could leave my stuff at her house and she said yes. Some of you are probably wondering when I'm leaving for the army. It's on the 23rd this Friday. Some of you also ask why the army and not the Navy or Marines or Air Force. My friend who let me leave my things at her house has a grandpa who was in the army, and he convinced me to join the army. But if things don't work out for myself in the army, I'm going to join the Navy or Air Force or Marines. June 20th, 2023. Today my bio dad called me and said that he got out of prison 2 weeks ago. He's living in his parents' house. My grandparents, when they passed away, they left their house to my dad. So I went to see him. We had a good conversation. He apologized for not being there for me. I told him if he's truly sorry for not being there for me, he should make up for it by being there for me now. He told me he was going to try his best to be there for me and that he got a job in construction. I told him I was going to the army and he broke down in tears and told me he was proud of me. I couldn't help it and cried as well. It was a very emotional moment. I told him because he hasn't been there all my life, I'm not going to call him dad just because he's my bio dad. I'm going to call him by his name. If he wants me to call him dad, he has to earn it. He told me, that is fine. I plan on going back tomorrow and be there for a while with him. Of course it's going to be after he gets out of work. Edit, I am already ready to go. I am here in my biological father's house. My mom doesn't know I am leaving for the army. The only thing she knows is that I moved out of her house and am staying with my biological father. I left a note telling her everything about how she has treated me, except for the fact that I'm going to the army. I am going to call an Uber to take me to the station where I'm going to get picked up by a bus and then take me to the army. I also forgave my bio dad for not being there for me, but I also told him that just because I forgave him doesn't mean I'm going to call him dad. He has to earn it. So I started calling him by his first name, Matthew. Yes, that's his real name. I could see it in his eyes when I called him by his first name that he was hurt by it, but he accepted the fact that he wasn't there for me growing up. And these are the consequences, but I also told him I'd give him an opportunity to redeem himself. Let's see if he really is sorry and regrets not being there for me. I don't know if my mom has read the letter because I'm not there to see her reaction. I did talk to my sister who's 10 years old about me moving out because I got a job. She was sad, but she said, "Are you going to come and visit us?" I told her yes when I had the time. She was 9 before, but she's now 10. This past weekend it was her birthday. My little brother is still too young to understand things, so I didn't tell him anything. He's only 4 after all. But this was the escape I needed from my terrible mom. I should call her by her name instead since she was never a mother to me. Parents of a beaten-up student want to get my license revoked after I save their son. I am advising a class of STEM students, and handle all STEM and senior high subjects. When this happened on Monday, I noticed that some teachers were talking to some grade 8 students. It looked like they were up to no good, but I didn't bother to intervene, because we're professionals and trained to deal with that kind of stuff. After the classes, I was facilitating the cleaning of my classroom, and almost always went home at almost 5 p.m. after most of the students and other teachers had gone off. I ride a motorcycle going to work. My work is at least 6 miles away from home. As I was going home, I noticed a bunch of our students forming a circle, about 5 to 6 of them, in a waiting shed and seemed to be hitting something. It got my curiosity, so I stopped and turned back to see what they're up to. When I called them, they all ran away, panicked as they recognized me. I immediately saw a kid lying down on the pavement and blood flowing. 2 rushed to the kid and checked his breathing, put him to a recovery position as I noticed his nose bleeding, an open wound on his forehead, swollen left eye and other bruises. I opened the underseat box from my motorcycle and got a cloth tied to it with the rubber I had to his forehead. I called an emergency response. The kid woke up at this point and I told him to just lay down. Some bystanders noticed me as I yelled for help. I asked them if they knew the kid's parents, and some of them recognized the kid and immediately ran to their house for his parents. After about 10 minutes an ambulance came. I stood aside as they removed the cloth bandage I put on his forehead. They asked me some questions, and I told them the story. The parents arrived panicked, the mother was crying, and they went with the paramedics. I went home, Told my wife the story, and she kinda teased me because I saved someone today. That's her way of saying she's proud of me. I was trained as an emergency responder, and yes, I was proud of that. Today, I was attending a seminar, when I got a call from my school head. The parents of the kid wanted to file a case against me because I didn't interfere earlier. I didn't do anything to avoid this conflict. As a teacher, I should know how to mitigate situations like this. I was negligent as a teacher. I did not prioritize the safety of their child, and they claimed they contacted a lawyer, telling them that the school or me should be the one paying the hospital bills, because it was our fault this happened, or else they'll file a case. Turns out, the students I saw that some teachers were talking to on Monday are the ones who beat up the kid. And the other teachers believe their stories that they were just talking that time. The kid's name is Alvin, and he was a shy kid, with problems with his left eye. He was getting bullied because of that, and now, the doctor said that he may never see with that eye again. It broke my heart. Tomorrow, I should be attending the second day of my seminar, but I will go talk to the parents to straighten things up. I understand that they're just run by their emotions. I know I didn't do anything wrong. I don't even know their kid up to that point, and it happened outside the school parameter, so the school has no authority or obligations. I'm not pointing any blame to others. I just kinda feel guilty knowing that what if I talked to the students earlier that Monday? Maybe I could have handled things better. Edit. Since yesterday, I've been making calls, my lawyer godparents, my lawyer friend, and some local officials for some CCTV camera footage. I was friends with almost all officials within our school community because I helped a lot of students get scholarships and even pass on their college application. Some of them are their kids. They collected witnesses, and the community has been very supportive. The school board talked to me, and said that I didn't do anything wrong. Our school head said that if I hadn't stepped in, Alvin may probably be gone. Even my lawyers said to not speak to the parents, and advised me to wait for the footage, and my lawyer friend will collect statements. Alvin just got out of the hospital, and will be transferring to another school. I don't plan on pursuing any case against the parents. I just want to drop this and move on with my life if I can.